Humanity has an undying curiosity when it comes to our relationship with the final frontier. No, not the final frontier is in Alaska, but is in outer space. Our desire to explore and investigate the world around us is ever present in children, just as it is in astrophysicists. Human spaceflight has truly exposed our ability to collaborate and communicate for the greater being. The most common question that I've seen in this debate for space is, why should we care about our space program? Well, I'm convinced that if NASA were to disappear tomorrow, if we never put up another space telescope like Hubble, if we never put another human in space, that our country would feel profoundly distraught, like we lost something important and that our best days were behind us. We might not be able to put our thumb on why we feel that way, but in retrospect, we can see the benefits that our outer space program has laid in our laps. The spaceflight era has generated some of the most widely used and universally appreciated technologies. A 2006 research project by Julie Robinson at Sam Houston University reported the significant technological spin-offs of NASA developments. LASIK technology actually comes from a 1980s effort to autonomously dock spacecraft without human input. That's putting a spacecraft with a satellite so that you can work on it from afar. This LASIK technology uses cameras and the ability to track. And LASIK now is used by ophthalmologists to track eye movement at a rate 4,000 times per second. It's also able to do that while reshaping the cornea. This is used every day and it improves lives. Other innovations like that include cochlear implants, artificial limbs, LED lights, contact lenses, memory foam, solar panels, and even GPS. Space exploration has given insightful knowledge and science education about our basic understanding of the universe as well as our very own planet. We're able to see details on other planets like Mars that provide information to us on how our planet was made. Our TVs and satellite radio are provided from space. And those things that provide our TV and satellite radio are artificial satellites. Actually, artificial satellites were introduced during the Kennedy administration, and they inspired the Kennedy's 1962 speech, "We choose to go to the moon." In this speech, Kennedy laid a foundation for the US to lead the space race, not just for domestic benefit, but for all of humanity. The international collaboration that the space race set is unprecedented even 50 years later. Cultural and international diversity benefit largely and are increased in times of great space accomplishment. The European Space Agency now works with NASA on a daily basis. And the success of the International Space Station can be seen around the world. Canada, Japan, Russia, the United States, Brazil, all communicate on a daily basis to make sure the International Space Station works. The European Space Agency, which was created in 1998, just 2 years before the launch of the International Space Station, includes countries like Austria, Belgium, Denmark, France, Germany, Norway, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, and the UK. Countries that were pitted against each other in World War II. Might I add, that was just 60 years ago. And there are some countries that participate now that weren't even in and take a spot of neutrality, like Switzerland and Sweden. Serious investment in our spaceflight industry, especially NASA, will support our currently crippled economy and strengthens our bond as a community and people. So back to that question, why should we care about the space program? Well, people look at the space program and they see a visual expenditure of federal funds. And in a report published by the Congressional Budget Office, in 2019, the United States spends 50 times more money on social programs and education than it does on NASA. I don't condone reallocating those funds that are currently in those social programs or education, and I even would argue that they deserve more. But I do believe that we should take a look at the importance of our space program and the amount of funding that it gets. In that same report, you can see NASA currently gets a budget of about $22.6 billion. That's only 0.5% of our GDP. You can also note that in comparison, in 1965, during the lunar missions, it had just over $5 billion. I know it's not as much, but that's 4.4% of our GDP. With 10 times more funding than we have now, we were able to put men on the moon multiple times. Let me remind you, that was 50 years ago, while we were working alone. Now, with the collaboration of countries across the globe, we aren't even giving 0.5% of our budget to that same cause. These dollars are becoming missiles instead of moon boots. From the days of our earliest upright steps, we endeavor to learn more, collaborate, and learn about the world around us. And it's allowed us to build civilization the way that we know it today. And if you dream big with space, not in a way that hundreds have done beforehand, like going to low Earth orbit, but in a new way for real destinations, taking really audacious steps to advance the space frontier, it'll change our cultural outlook on what it means to embrace engineering, science, and math. When universities and philosophers say that we need more scientists and we need more engineers, or we need our children to understand mathematics so they can understand the world around them, we can't just rely on better teachers, better science, and a better system. We need a place and a purpose to apply our understanding of those topics, and it can foster the excitement that we feel when we explore as kids. So back to that question, why should we care about the space program? Well, it's an easy answer because it's obviously important to explore and to discover. But the real answer is that when you set out for deep exploration and discover, you set an example on what needs to be accomplished. And when you fill our education system with students who look up to the sky and dream about being among the stars, those students will be interested in STEM programs because they can see the great things that are happening and they'll want to be a part of it. In a 2011 journal by McGill University, it was noted that 20% more STEM students were in those programs in 1971 compared to 2010. 1971 was just 2 years after the first moon landing. When we inspire the youth and the educated, ourselves included, we have the ability to change our world, our economy, and our culture. Countries that understand these concepts and know technology and innovation now power industry have become the world leaders. The most advanced and longest running space programs in the world belong to China, the US, Germany, Japan. These countries also boast the highest socioeconomic status and the highest standard of living. In 2018 interview with CBS 60 Minutes, Elon Musk said, "It's not about enabling life beyond Earth. Fundamentally, the future is the future of humans is a multiplanetary species and a spacefaring civilization. That future is much more interesting than if we're neither of those. You want to be inspired by things. You want to wake up in the morning and think the future is going to be great. And that great future does have us as a spacefaring civilization. It's about believing the future and knowing that that future will be better than the past. So when working towards a better future, we're working without regard for gender, nationality, race. And that day that we give up our will to explore is the day we give up being truly human." Thank you. 7 minutes, right on time. I'd now like to open it up for a Q&A session. First question I have from Brayden and Alyssa. Are you planning on having a career in furthering the work in space exploration? What do you want to do specifically? So if I understand you correctly, the question is what I want to do to have an effect on our space exploration and what I'm doing particularly at Utah State University. Well, I have always been really obsessed with space and I've always just loved it. I wanted to be an astronaut as a kid. It's what I painted, it's what I drew when I was bored. But being that I'm now 6'5", 270 pounds, I actually am not even in the physical running to be an astronaut because I simply don't fit in the cockpit. But that next best thing for me was to help astronauts get there. So I've always had this passion to support the space program and go to other planets because I believe that humanity was meant to be somewhere else and as well as here on Earth, but that we really can help the rest of society and humanity by being other places. So in having a career and furthering that space exploration, I'm currently working on a degree in mechanical engineering with aerospace emphasis. And specifically, I want to do things that help make spaceflight accessible to everybody, including you and me. Not just billionaires and military enthusiasts. Instead of spaceflight being for missiles or defense weapons, I believe it should be for people who want to go on, live and colonize the moon, people who want to help further humanity as a whole, regardless of where you lie in your socioeconomic standing. I believe someone in lower class, middle class, upper class all should get the same opportunity to be a part of those programs, especially kids coming up in STEM programs. I believe that they should have an equal opportunity to actually get to go to space, just like it was a dream of mine. I know it's a dream of other kids. Thank you for your question very much. Second question, Why should we focus on outer space and going to other planets when we can't take care of our own? And if I understand that question correctly, you're asking, why should we change our federal spending and add to that money in order to go to space and to further ourselves when we have things like hunger and poverty, those kind of things? Well, in taking care of our own planet, it takes a lot, and it's up to all the countries working together. And a lot of those times where one country struggles but another is not, it takes that other country to help them or to have federal aid going to those places. But more than that, I believe that as humans come together and we better our education system and the kids coming through and accessibility to education, the next generation will be smarter, they will have learned from our mistakes, and they'll have an opportunity with better technology to do more than we did. And focusing on outer space and those other places provides us with a lot of the technologies and opportunities that we wouldn't get otherwise. Developing technology to get to those places provides great benefits in agriculture, in medicine especially. The MRI machine was also created in retrospect of the Apollo missions. And that's something that helps find cancer and tumors in patients, as well as blood clotting and brain scans, CT scans as well. So a lot of those problems can be solved as a sheer side effect of space travel. So I believe it's important to put money towards humanity and bettering ourselves and our knowledge, and so that we can take care of ourselves better and take care of our own planet. Because in the education system, when you're spending 50 times more money on the education system than on NASA, it doesn't mean you should get rid of NASA, because what is that 1/50th going to do when you move it to education? But if you just allocate more to NASA, it will supplement those education systems that you already have in place. Thank you very much for that question. That was really insightful. I'm actually going to be looking into that later. Thank you very much for your time.